packed with powerful nutrients that can help you get off your addiction to sugar. You have an advantage over people who don't. But carbohydrates and grains, they're not your enemy. It's refined. Hi friends, looking for guilty, health-free snacks? The best part about this top 10 list is that there is no cooking involved. Number 1 are walnuts. I would show you some, but I actually ate all of it. Eating walnuts can help to make you smarter. Potentially also reduce your risk of that dreaded D word, dementia. I just liked eating walnuts with apples, which is number 2. And I usually just chopped it and put it in my salad. Apples are really how I got through college and medical school. You know how boring some of those lectures are? Well, if you sat with me in class, I was probably pretty annoying crunching on my giant apple. And apples and walnuts are a delicious pair to eat together. And the bonus is that can help you lose weight. And here is why. Your tongue can taste sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. The back of your tongue is where you taste bitter. So your body naturally doesn't like bitter food. That's actually how you prevent yourself from getting poisoned. And this is why people don't like the skin on nuts. And that skin on those nuts are packed with powerful nutrients that can help you get off your addiction to sugar. Now, when you want to eat sugar, that's a craving. That is because you're having dopamine surges when you eat sugar, so that when you don't get that dopamine high, you're looking for things that can actually trigger it. That's driving behavior. Lots of things can actually increase your dopamine. Volunteering at church, spending time with your children and your friends, they all can help release dopamine. But these days, people are at home, maybe watching YouTube or on social media and not interacting with people. So they now are getting their dopamine fix with bad food. And it's easy for a doctor to say, just stop eating the food. I mean, it's always easy to tell someone else to do it, and then you go home and you're eating it. That's what I used to do with my children. I used to eat junky food, but I told them not to eat it. And I released myself from the addiction by pairing bitter foods with sweet foods that I like. But apples, they're actually not a bad food. They're a wonderfully delicious food. The skin is actually a little bit bitter, so it regulates how many apples I'm going to eat. It's also packed with fiber and the phytonutrients. And these phytonutrients that taste a little bit bitter, they also help to control your metabolism, and they slow digestive enzymes so that you don't rapidly go through the sugar in these apples. But the sweetness of the apples helps me to eat the bitterness of walnuts. In fact, you can lose weight from just eating apples or just eating walnuts. Now, fresh apples are so much better than dried apples, but even dried apple rings have been shown to help people lose weight. And when you eat a fresh apple, it tastes sweet, but the sugar is trapped in water. It's trapped in fiber. It's an intact matrix unless you digest this and bake it and make it into apple pie. This fresh apple actually won't spike your sugar, unlike eating an apple pie or muffin. Now, there are several reasons for that. Number 1, apples contain a lot of fructose, and fructose actually doesn't spike your sugars. Your blood sugars are measured by glucose. It doesn't mean that high concentrations of fructose is not bad for you. You may be afraid of eating fruit because it tastes sweet and it has fructose. But I think you're confusing fructose with concentrated high fructose corn syrup or agave syrup. They're not the same things. And this is because agave syrup and high fructose corn syrup, they don't have the fiber. They don't have the water that is protecting your body from the concentrated sugar. Agave syrup and high fructose corn syrup, they're actually refined sugary ingredients made by the industrialization of your food. You know, the gas in your car, it's also a product of refining chemicals. But unlike gasoline, this apple in its unrefined state is very protective for your car, your metabolism. And we have underestimated food structure, the matrix in which nutrients exist. You can't put a spigot in this apple and have high fructose come out. You got to take this through a machine, press it, grind it, and then squeeze that sugar to come out. That's a lot of work that your own body has to do when you're chewing on a whole apple. It's kind of like hiding a dog treat in a dog toy where that dog has to work to get to that food. That's what whole food does. It makes your body work. And that metabolism helps to control your weight, helps to control your appetite, and helps to protect your metabolism from the energy that is potentially in this apple if you rapidly released it and concentrated it like apple juice. You know, I think of it like protecting your fruit from, let's say, birds. My brother has a blueberry bush that gets eaten by birds all the time. So he put a protective net over the blueberry bush, hoping that the birds wouldn't eat the blueberries. Well, they still ate the blueberries. It just took them longer to get to them. Obviously, he had some holes in his setup. This is where eating intact whole foods are very beneficial, and you should eat it guilt-free, even if you eat it as a snack. Now, if you are addicted to sugary foods, it's really hard to just give it all up. I was a sugar addict. I loved all things sugar, and I still do. But instead of eating refined sugar hidden in foods, I just go for nature's sweet treats. And I balance it by eating a variety of foods. And that's why I always try to eat a little bit of nuts with my fruits. Now, I'm really actually going for the antioxidants in my foods. So I avoid apples that don't have the skin. So if you peel the skin off, I'm probably not going to eat that apple because the skin is what I want to eat. And that's also true for nuts. So I don't like people taking off the skin out of nuts, right? Like that's why I don't eat nut flours like almond flours, because the whole almond actually has the skin. And I purposely look for red walnuts. They are so much healthier than walnuts that don't have that red skin, because that red skin, it contains antioxidants that can help to regulate my blood sugars. And antioxidant-rich foods are known to help protect people from chronic metabolic conditions like diabetes and cancers. But I know red walnuts are hard to find, and if you just have access to regular walnuts, eat those. Those are good too. All walnuts have special polyunsaturated fatty acids called alpha-linolenic acid, and your body converts alpha-linolenic acid into omega-3 fatty acids like EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid. These two fatty acids are essential for your health. America has a huge dietary deficiency in omega-3 fatty acids. That was me through much of my training. Diets rich in omega-3s are considered to be heart healthy and lung healthy. Two of the most vital organs to keep healthy are our hearts and our lungs. So diets high in omega-3 fats reduce cholesterol, improve blood flow, and they've been shown to help reduce the symptoms of asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. I think one of the hardest things for people to understand is that the color of your food dictates the power of that food to help you reduce inflammation, to help keep your body full, to improve your gut microbiome, to protect your metabolism and DNA, to help improve blood flow. I mean, all of this translates into feeling better and living well longer. And I'm sure some of you prefer to cover up like a walnut with sugar, honey, or maple syrup. Well, you can do that, but what you're doing is you're transforming and processing that food with highly refined ingredients like sucrose or table sugar, and you increase your risk of getting fatty liver and insulin resistance. If you're avoiding high fructose corn syrup, then you probably don't realize that sucrose is 50% fructose. And what's even worse is that honey is 50% fructose and agave is 80% fructose. And maple syrup has both sucrose and fructose. So something all natural doesn't mean it's necessarily better for you. Fructose is even worse for your metabolism because your liver is the only one that can process it. And it's been associated with insulin resistance. And this is because your body struggles to metabolize high amounts of concentrated fructose. Basically, your poor little liver is overwhelmed with so much fructose. It's kind of like water. Drinking water is health promoting, but falling into a pool and then drowning in that water is a disaster, especially if you can't swim. Eating fructose in whole fruit is actually healthy, as your gut microbiome can help you digest 5 grams of that fructose. In fact, studies have shown that liver patients have better outcomes if they eat more fruit. But extracting that fructose from fruit or extracting the fructose from grains like corn, that's detrimental. Now, make sure you're not eating processed apples in the form of apple tarts, apple pies, applesauce sweetened with sugar, or drinking apple juice. Processing removes the beneficial fiber like apple juice, and it also adds highly refined chemicals like sugars and starches when you make your apple pie. Now, number 3 is this nut, the pistachio. Did you know that eating nuts can change the electrical conduction in your brain? And when your brain is not working right, a neurologist can put electrodes all over your head to measure your brain waves. Now, you have 4 basic types of brain waves. beta, alpha, delta, and gamma waves. These waves change depending on your thoughts, your mood, as well as whether you're asleep or awake. Gamma waves are critical for a good night's REM sleep. It is also critical for people who want to think and want to learn. And when they tested different kinds of nuts, like pistachio, this actually gave people more gamma waves in their EEG. Now, I personally like my pistachios roasted in a shell. This way, I can eat that paper-thin skin. Did you know that skin is actually a purple color? Now, if you've watched my other videos, you know I really love the color purple. It's actually my favorite color, but I look for it in food because that means it has anthocyanins. And this tells me that food is packed with antioxidants to decrease inflammation. Remember, the skin of these plants, they contain a lot of phytonutrients, especially ones that are protecting nuts. Nuts are very oily and fatty, and therefore they're prone to go rancid. And that's why they need really strong antioxidant skins. But that's not the only reason why I eat pistachios. Did you know that they're a great source of protein? 20% of this pistachio is essentially protein. They're also richer in fiber than many other nuts. And because it's rich in both fiber and protein, as well as oil, it can help you stay longer, fuller. In fact, studies have shown that people can lose weight eating whole nuts. Like walnuts can help to lower your risk of heart disease, lower your cholesterol, lower your blood pressure, and improve your insulin resistance. Now, if you're interested in a handout to know the protein and fiber content of some common nuts, point your phone to this QR code and it'll take you to a link to a handout I made just for you. Now, I usually love to eat my pistachios straight out from the shell, but sometimes I'll peel them and then I'll add them to a frozen banana. And then the whole mixture, I'll put cocoa powder in it and stick it in the freezer. It'll come out like a bark, and that's a healthy chocolate pistachio bark snack. Have you noticed that the pistachio is a brilliant green color? That color is due to 2-beta-carotene called lutein and zeaxanthin with some chlorophyll. Now, as I grow older, I realize that I have to work harder to protect my body from oxidative stress, especially for my eyes, because I've been using it my whole life. I live in sunny Southern California, and the sun is good, but it can also damage the eye. And so people who spend a lot of times outdoors, like fishermen and farmers, they have a higher risk of eye conditions. And that's why I go out of my way to get beta-carotene-rich foods filled with lutein and zeaxanthin. Now, I think Americans are really confused about food coloring because marketing has trained us that artificial color is okay. So they line our store shelves with artificial ingredients. And I once worked with a video editor who literally showed artificial food dyes when I said, add some color to your food. Now, of course, I gave him a pep talk and told him how damaging artificial color is. In the United States, there's so many different varieties of food coloring agents. Now, if you think about it, why do we need many different food coloring agents when there are 3 basic primary colors? You can technically just mix and match them to make other colors. That's what people learned in kindergarten. But when it comes to chemicals in our food, there's this huge disconnect between what we eat and our understanding of our body and how it processes these chemicals. Your body is an ecosystem that changes with input. Besides breathing in air, drinking water, the biggest input is your food. Ultimately, everything that we eat is broken down into chemicals, and it will all affect your immunity and your metabolism. Red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6 contain Benzidine, a human and animal carcinogen. Now, of course, the poison is in the dose. In the United Kingdom, Fanta orange soda is colored with pumpkin and carrot extracts, while in the US, our version uses red 40 and yellow 6. McDonald's strawberry sundaes are colored only with strawberries in Britain, but red 40 is used in the United States. Now, if I'm wrong about this, please correct me. Artificial food dyes have been linked to behavior problems in children. How much of it is contributing to our climbing autism rates? Let's just pretend these artificial dyes aren't directly linked to disease. If you're a food manufacturing company who uses chemical dyes, then please explain to us, why are chemicals that have no biological purpose used to make food? I don't think they meet the definition of food. Now, when I went to Switzerland, the products sold in America indeed had different ingredients when they were sold in Switzerland. And maybe that's why the Swiss are a top 5 longevity country. We don't even make it to the top 45. Number 4 is one of my favorite go-to snacks. Fresh or frozen? and that's the grape. Now, instead of coloring your snacks red and purple, why don't you just buy red and purple grapes? Now, the skin is super important. The skin is concentrated with phytonutrients and fiber. The outside has to protect everything inside, and hence it has more antioxidant power. Now, the drawback is if you feed grapes to young kids, the skin is very hard for them to chew and digest. So this is why grapes are a choking hazard. Grapes are a great source of vitamin C, which half of Americans lack in their diets. Vitamin C is critical for thinking. Do you know which organ needs the most vitamin C? It's your brain. You're probably thinking about your immune system because everybody thinks about their immune system, how vitamin C helps your immunity. Yeah, that's true. But your immune system takes a back seat when it comes to accessing nutrients. Your brain gets fed first. Now, remember how the nuts need antioxidants to protect them because they're so fatty? Well, your brain needs a bunch of antioxidants because it is made out of pure fat. And when your brain doesn't have enough vitamin C, well, there won't be any left over for your immune system or any other cellular function. Now, grapes are unique because they have a special antioxidant called resveratrol. Resveratrol can help reduce inflammation and potentially block the growth of cancer cells. But just taking resveratrol supplements hasn't shown to be a longevity thing to do. And that's probably because resveratrol needs other components to work. And when you eat whole grapes, you are eating a collection of antioxidants such as catechins, quercetins, and anthocyanins. There's so many different varieties of grapes with beautiful colors, but I always go for the darkest, reddest, purplish shades. Do you buy electrolytes? Well, if you aren't looking for nature's electrolytes, then you're missing out on the best sources to rehydrate with added minerals and vitamins. Grapes are packed with potassium to counteract high blood pressure, which drinking that sodium-filled electrolyte will increase. But adding more potassium-rich foods can help you lower your blood pressure and preserve your blood flow. But that's not the only way grapes protect your blood vessels. It can help lower your cholesterol, which contributes to atherosclerosis. Now, if you're looking to increase blood flow, you got to get to a normal low-density lipoprotein cholesterol level. You may have blood sugar metabolism issues and you're avoiding grapes because it's packed with sugar. But even though it tastes sweet, it is actually a low glycemic index food, which means it can help lower your blood sugars if you eat them as a whole food. If you're eating grape preserves, well, that's not whole food. That's basically a form of junk food. Now, the trick to eating grapes is to eat the skin along with it. The skin protects the flesh. I used to peel grape skins, especially on Concord grapes, because I didn't appreciate that the skin was packed with antioxidants and metabolic powerhouses to help me lose weight. Now, if you're spitting the skin out like I used to do, it's because it's bitter and it's tough. But that bitterness is from the polyphenols and that toughness is from fiber. The bitter taste and the fiber is actually what prevents you from overeating these grapes. They also dampen your dopamine surges that are driving your behavior to seek more sugary foods. And this is why drinking sugary beverages or concentrating sugar, even if it's like all natural maple syrup, agave, or honey, it doesn't work to help people lose weight and to reduce your sugar intake. The bioactive molecules in the skin further protects your metabolism by inhibiting digestive enzymes. And this slows your body's access to the sugar in the fruit. This allows your gut microbiome more access. And then it converted to more metabolic byproducts. So don't spit out the skin. And if you can access grapes with seeds, that's even better. As a kid, there were only seeded grapes, and now I have to go out of my way and fly to Switzerland to get seeded green grapes. It's probably one of the reasons why the Swiss live longer than Americans. They're always eating the antidote. Now, so far we've talked about walnuts, apples, pistachios, and grapes. These are 4 healthy snacks that require very little preparation. An apple has 4.4 grams of fiber. A cup of grapes have 0.8 grams of fiber. An ounce of walnuts have 1.9 grams of fiber. And an ounce of pistachio has 2.9 grams of fiber. Now, if you ate a medium apple, a cup of grapes, and an ounce of walnuts and pistachios, you have literally eaten 10 grams of fiber. And that's a third of the minimum recommended amount of fiber that you should be aiming for in your food on a daily basis. Your fellow Americans, they're eating an average of less than 15 grams of fiber a day. So just by eating some healthy snacks, you will upgrade your food quality and you'll be eating 2/3 of what your friend is eating in an entire day. So be sure to share your healthy snacks with your friends. Fiber is one of the most important nutrients and so misunderstood. In fact, it's basically forgotten. And a lot of people think fiber comes in a bottle. And sure, fiber is everywhere. It's in the wood in your house, the cotton in your bath towel, or your paper towel that you're using to wipe your hands. But that's not food, unless you're a termite. And the reason it's not food is because we don't have enzymes to digest that sugar. And when you compare a piece of wood versus a paper towel, if you were a termite, which one do you think would be healthier for you to eat? Now, obviously, termites are pretty smart. They're going for the wood in your house, not the paper towel, because the wood is in a natural whole food form for them. That's because the wood actually still has micronutrients and minerals besides carbohydrates for the termites to flourish. Your paper towel, it lacks vitamins, minerals, and that's why your termites, they don't eat your paper towels. And this is why eating processed foods are even more harmful. We think that we're getting vitamins and minerals in these processed foods, but we're not. And so when you're snacking on something like rice crackers, the nutritional content is so far from the whole intact grain that it's not a nutritional snack. Now, if you think about it, white rice is an invention of the industrial food revolution. People didn't eat polished white rice before machines allowed people to remove the bran and the germ from the endosperm. And this is because they wanted to store rice longer. But it killed thousands of people across Asia, including the Imperial Navy of Japan in the 19th and 20th centuries. Do you know why? It's because the bran of the rice contains an essential vitamin called thiamine, vitamin B1. Vitamin B1 is essential for all animals. Your pet dog, cat, reptile, bird, they all need thiamine to survive. In fact, it was chickens that helped people discover thiamine, a critical micronutrient for them too. Chickens fed polished white rice got the same deadly disease as people when they didn't get enough thiamine, beriberi. And giving chickens back the trash that was removed, the bran prevented beriberi. So what did the world do with this critical information? Well, they started fortifying your white rice and grains with vitamin B1, thiamine. So every time you eat refined white rice and wheat in America, you're getting a supplement with that grain that includes a little bit of thiamine. But Americans aren't eating only refined grains. They're eating tons of refined sugar. And every time you eat a carbohydrate without thiamine, you're actually depleting your body's resources of thiamine. Your body can't make thiamine. Thiamine is a water-soluble vitamin. So if you overeat thiamine, it just gets peed out. That's a good thing because you don't get toxic from overeating thiamine. It's a bad thing because you also can't store it. Thiamine is a vitamin that you need to get enough of it every day. And the more physically active you are, the sicker you are, the higher your metabolism, the more thiamine your body will need physiologically because it is vital for metabolism, not just for energy, but it also helps you contract your muscles. It allows your nerves to talk to each other and to stay healthy. And when you're not eating, you're not getting thiamine. And this is why fasting for even a day without consulting a medical doctor who has experience in helping people safely fast can get you metabolically unhealthy very fast. You may be losing weight. You may be reducing your fatty liver. But you're also losing thiamine. But you don't have to fast to have low levels of thiamine. People who consume alcohol, overconsume empty carbohydrates, or have absorption issues like Crohn's disease or undergoing dialysis, they are also lacking thiamine. Thiamine is critical for carbohydrate metabolism, but at the same time, thiamine deficiency makes it difficult to digest carbohydrates. This causes your body to build up pyruvic acid, which changes the pH in your bloodstream, contributing to difficulty breathing and decreasing mental alertness. A collection of pyruvic acid, even though your body makes it, is toxic to your mitochondria because it inhibits your body from detoxifying as it depletes glutathione. This is beriberi. Don't underestimate how these tiny little micronutrients can make a huge difference in the quality of your life and the quantity of your life. Have you heard of cataracts? Cataracts is a condition where waste deposits build up in your eye. I have a friend who got cataract surgery in her early 50s. She basically ate at the same fast food restaurant every single day for decades. Who does that? Apparently many people. Did you know that if you eat an adequate amount of thiamine along with other micronutrients, you can protect your eye from cataracts? And my friend, she never made the connection that what she was not eating actually contributed to her early cataracts. I have scar tissue in this eye. That's because my son kicked me in the eye when he was an infant. That's when I was wearing contacts, and that's why I don't wear contacts anymore. I still remember that event was so excruciating painful. So I work really hard to make sure that I have adequate micronutrients on a daily basis. I'm sure you probably know someone with dementia. Now, I know a lot of people with dementia, and unfortunately, there's no drug that we can give to change the trajectory of dementia. But did you know that taking oral thiamine can actually help improve symptoms? And by the way, the little amount of thiamine that are placed in common multivitamins is better than nothing. But if you're deficient, it's not going to be good enough. A lot of our modern day food conveniences were invented to support soldiers in combat, like canned meats and white rice. Canned foods and white rice have longer shelf life and are easy to prepare. These convenient foods are what soldiers needed for battle. So I can understand why people invented convenient foods. But governments don't need soldiers to live for decades. These foods aren't designed for longevity. Do you see the problem with why millions of people are getting chronic metabolic diseases eating convenient, shelf-stable foods? Unfortunately, marketing has trained all of us to eat chemical components looking for proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. But they have overlooked and not appreciated the power of fiber and phytonutrients. Whole plant foods come with these key ingredients that are protective for all kinds of metabolic conditions. And if you're eating for longevity, then the more whole plant foods you eat, the more it will protect your immunity and metabolism. We've always thought about fiber as a trash and thrown away and fed to livestock because people didn't value the most important metabolic organ, your gut microbiome. Now, if you think about it, your body is just a large chemical machine processing chemicals. But your machine can only do so much processing because your DNA is finite, it's limited. And that's where if you have a whole bunch of other friends helping you process chemicals, like your gut microbiome, you have an advantage over people who don't. There are people with short gut syndrome that cannot metabolize food at all. So we have to give them intravenous food. And as a result, they don't get the wonderful metabolites made by your gut microbes from digesting the fibers and phytonutrients like butyrate. This is a benefit of eating the skins and the seeds of whole plant foods. Unfortunately, we don't have that technology to give people with short gut syndrome these nutrients. And as a result, they often get multiple recurrent infectious diseases. Whole plants have the optimal proportion of nutrients that are perfectly packaged in what God has created. But we need to eat a diversity of them because no single plant has everything that we need. It's just like no single person can be an expert at everything and fix everything in your house. But man, we try to extract food components, manipulate them into new textures and flavors and colors. And we think we're going forward with our food health, but we continue to prove that we're going backwards. When you eat food in its natural form, this automatically regulates your appetite, your hunger, your mood, your metabolism, and your immunity. You're not going to get that in that fiber supplement or that fiber-rich processed food. Beware of marketing. The food industry is a $1 trillion industry. They know using important health trigger words will get customers to buy. Fiber is one of them. But when you add fiber to food, you aren't getting the food matrix, the phytonutrients attached to that fiber, and the essential micronutrients already packaged in perfectly natural whole foods that protect your metabolism and your immunity. You will find fiber supplements added to your snacks, your cereals, your breads to manipulate the nutrition label and the texture. These engineered foods do not have the same biological effect. But it doesn't mean that you can't process your food. I mash and freeze bananas all the time. They fulfill my craving for that texture of ice cream. I used to eat ice cream every single day. In fact, I found out that if I ate full-fat ice cream, it didn't actually spike my blood sugars when I had gestational diabetes. But it significantly raised my cholesterol. That was the only time I've ever had high cholesterol in my entire life because it was full of saturated fat. So I was biohacking the wrong way. Instead of addressing the underlying metabolic problem, the root of the problem, which is saturated fat that is causing my insulin resistance to give me gestational diabetes, I was chasing chasing a lab value, trying to make my blood sugars look good and preventing that blood sugar spike. And that's a problem with all these influencers, whether you have an MD degree or not, trying to get you to lower your blood sugars chasing a lab value. Many of them are compromising your metabolism. Sure, if you give up carbohydrates, you'll never see a blood sugar spike again. That's just common sense. But carbohydrates and grains, they're not your enemy. It's refined sugars that's your metabolic enemy, because we are overeating these nutrient depleted ingredients and pretending that they have an adequate amount of micronutrients like thiamine, along with other essential vitamins and minerals that protect your DNA and your metabolism. To put it bluntly, people who choose not to eat carbohydrates, they simply won't thrive in the long run. I have yet to meet anyone over 80 who have eaten carbohydrate-free diets for decades. First of all, it's just really hard to get to your 80s. But second, carbohydrates are essential to all long-lived animals. The giant tortoise can live over 250 years. You know what they eat? Plants. Now, I love bananas also because they don't increase my blood sugars, especially since I gave up high saturated fat foods to correct my insulin resistance. And the way I train myself to enjoy my food is to replace textures and flavors of junky food with plants that have similar textures and flavors to the processed foods that I was eating. Now, bananas, they give me that creamy texture, that cold flavor, without spiking my saturated fat in my diet like ice cream. Honestly, I've always enjoyed eating a frozen banana, even as a kid. But if you want to upgrade your banana and give yourself another powerful longevity food, and try adding some cacao powder to it, which is number 6. Now, the reason why cacao powder is a longevity food is because it improves blood flow. It's so powerful that it's been shown to improve walking time in people with peripheral arterial disease. Now, if you have serious peripheral arterial disease, you will know it because you're going to have pain in the middle of the night and pain when you exercise. And this is because your blood vessels are constricting. It's tightening up, whether you exercise or after eating a high saturated fat meal, especially one full of salt. Now, currently, we don't have medicines to cure peripheral arterial disease. However, your supermarket contains a lot of different whole foods that can significantly improve symptoms, and cacao powder is one of them. But you have to get the right cacao powder, one rich in flavonols, because the ones that aren't rich in flavonols, like Dutch cocoa, well, there's not a lot of benefit. But many other foods, such as number 7, red beets, can increase your blood vessel dilation. Beets can be eaten raw. My mom used to drink beet juice because it helped to lower her blood pressure. And it does so by increases your body's nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a powerful vasodilator. That means it helps to widen your blood vessel, which lowers your blood pressure and then promotes more blood flow. Beets are very popular with athletes because they want to perform better, and hence they want to get more oxygen and blood flow to their muscles. So we think athletes are some special, unique people that they eat special food and it only applies to them. But if you think about it, we're made out of the same machinery, and the ones who need to eat more of those foods like an athlete are the ones who have more damage to the machinery, which will cause them to lose their blood flow. And these are people with advanced peripheral arterial disease. The unique thing about beets is that once you eat beets, these nutrients are concentrated in your saliva. And then bacteria in your mouth actually converts nitrates to nitrites that you then swallow, and then your body converts it to nitric oxide. So this is another reason why you don't want to use mouthwashes and destroy your oral microbiome. They actually are helping you digest your food. Now, everybody needs nitric oxide. Even if you don't think you have peripheral arterial disease, you're going to be developing it. We all do. It's called atherosclerosis. And the thing is, you can't store nitric oxide. You have to eat it all day long so you can make it. But there's another advantage to eating beets. It's actually rich in folate, another B vitamin that is crucial to protect your metabolism, your immunity, and your DNA. Now, folate is in every prenatal supplement. Have you thought about why it's well accepted and promoted for infants and pregnant people to take supplemental nutrition like baby formula and prenatal vitamins? And yet, people who are struggling with everyday health, like the rest of us who have chronic metabolic conditions, well, we are discouraged by many people from finding the right vitamins and minerals. And yet there's a lot of controversy about whether or not the rest of us should be supplementing our diet with micronutrients. I mean, do you really think it's just prenatal people who are lacking micronutrients? But somehow society only thinks infants and pregnant people need them. But for the rest of society, like grade school kids, junior high kids, high school kids, college kids, and young adults, these kids that are rapidly growing, that it's okay for them to eat pizza, hot dogs, hamburgers, french fries, chips, sodas, and nachos and thrive. Does this make sense to you? And people are scratching their heads thinking why we're having a higher rate of cancer in young adults. And to address the rising cancer issues, we want to solve the problem by getting doctors to do early screening. So now for colon cancer, the age is 45 for you to go get your colon checked. But the reality is we don't have enough doctors to do that. How about a more practical way? By investing in some real practical education through our school system, teaching people the value and the lack of value of what they're putting in their mouths. How about setting us up for success and limiting the amount of chemicals that are allowed in our food supply? How about improving the labels of our food so that when we're eating cake, we're not pretending that it's bread? Sounds to me like a better, more practical way to address our chronic metabolic conditions. Now, we can't fix the world, but we can start with ourselves and our families. So number 8 is a delicious, crunchy snack that I grew up with, and that is seaweed. Now, I buy seaweed already processed, and my favorite are those Korean seaweed snacks because they season it with a little bit of sesame oil and it's crunchy. Now, seaweed has a unique ability to accumulate a lot of iodine. Bamboo seaweed has a lot of iodine, so you got to be very careful not to overeat that. But in Asian stores, you'll find other kinds of seaweed like wakame seaweed and nori seaweed. Wakame seaweed has 139 micrograms of iodine per gram, and nori seaweed has 37 micrograms per gram. Now, adults, we only need about 150 micrograms a day, so be careful not to overdo any kind of seaweed. If you are eating dairy, then you probably get enough iodine in your dairy. Now, the cow doesn't make it for you. It's actually a byproduct of the antiseptic that they use to clean their udders. So essentially, you're eating trace amounts of a cleaning agent. And if you eat seafood or shellfish, you're also getting plenty of iodine. And by the way, eggs are a natural source of iodine too. But if you're a strict vegan, you need to know that you're not eating iodine unless you specifically go and eat iodine-rich foods, or if you take a supplement. And the reason why you don't want to overdo iodine or underdo iodine is that it can interfere with your thyroid gland. Iodine is essential to make thyroid hormones, and your life is dependent upon thyroid hormones to regulate your metabolism, protein synthesis, proper skeletal and central nervous system growth. Remember, your body is undergoing a lot of trauma every day, even if it's not physical trauma that you can see, because you're being attacked with all these chemicals in your food supply, in your air, and you need to be able to repair that equipment. It can't make things out of nothing, so you have to eat it. It's kind of like neglecting your car. If you don't do its maintenance for oil change, your car can break down. And because your body is constantly remodeling, it's important to replace it with nutrients that will support the constant daily stress that we all have to face, from germs to pollutants. And I think that's where the disconnect people have with food. Many people think of food like your body changing clothes. You already have your structure, so all you got to do is decorate it and make it look good. But when you do that and going for foods that look good and taste good, you're actually compromising your metabolism, your immunity, and the scaffolding of your body. So when you drink alcohol, it's all fun when you're a young adult, but don't be surprised that you're going to get breast cancer a few years later. Everything that we eat or don't eat affects our body's ability to thrive. So in the old days, people who lived further from the ocean got iodine deficiency. In fact, there was a Goiter Belt in America. Do you know what happens when your thyroid doesn't get enough iodine? Well, it swells up and your neck will be bigger than a baseball. And iodine deficiency actually affected the military because people who had goiters were disqualified from enrolling in the military. And this is where government and companies work together to solve the problem. So the government asked Morton Salt Company to fortify iodine in their salt. And that essentially resolved our iodine deficiency crisis. And this is a success story of how processed food purposely helped to make society better. But now we think that eating iodine deficient salts are healthier. That's marketing. Now, number 9 is my favorite snack to eat, and that is hummus. Now, the hummus is so common now that you can buy it in your local supermarket, or you can make it yourself. If you make it yourself, it's probably going to taste better and be more nutritious. And it's also going to be cheaper. And the reason why I like eating hummus is because it's creamy and it works great to help me eat other less palatable foods like vegetables. I actually didn't discover hummus until I was in college and visiting my brother in Michigan. He brought me to this popular sandwich shop and told me to get a vegetarian hummus sandwich, and he swore that I would love it. I was really skeptical because I've never eaten a pure vegetarian sandwich ever before. But when I bit into that sandwich, oh my goodness, it was the best tasting sandwich I have eaten in my whole life. And every time I eat a sandwich, it reminds me of that first sandwich that I ate in Michigan. If you're interested in making hummus on your own, here's a simple recipe that you can follow below. If you pause the video and take a screenshot, you can save it to your phone. Now, my favorite food to pair with hummus is the red bell pepper, number 10. I had to train myself to enjoy red bell peppers. It actually has the highest amount of vitamin C, even higher than oranges and lemons. And it's kind of strange, right? Because it's really not that sour. But when you're eating citrus fruits, you're actually eating citric acid. That's why it's so sour. Ascorbic acid is vitamin C. Paprika is how vitamin C was discovered, and essentially it's a red pepper. Now, I'm always looking for that red color food because I know it's a great source of phytonutrients like vitamin A. Now, I once went to a restaurant and ordered a grilled fajita. It had roasted bell peppers, but it put too much salt on it. And if you want to know the real health effects of salt, watch the next video.